So, could you tell me a bit about what made you want to join the police?
Apparently, as I was growing up, I always said I wanted to join the police as a police officer. I don't remember that. I love cooking, so I wanted to become a chef, but I got put off at that because of the salaries. In the meantime, I became a volunteer police officer as a special constable, so I got to experience a little bit about policing. I think my overbearing thing there was to help people, because I've always felt that I wanted to, help people, I guess. And then having experienced policing, and I feel that I can show a lot of empathy to people, or understand where they're coming from. So if you're having problems at home, or you have a death in the family, there are all sorts of things that I'd experienced myself. And I like to think that I'm quite a caring person, albeit one of your questions on there is about your emotions. I still feel I dig into those, whereas I see some of my colleagues that are in the police who aren't that way inclined. So, I guess to help people more than anything else. Justice, making sure that if people have done something wrong, that they're held accountable for what they've done. So, I guess that's my answer, really.
Yeah, brilliant. So, is there sort of a particular event or occasion, or just a particular anything that stands out to you, if that makes sense? During your career, is there any sort of particular thing that you remember?
As in trauma?
Yeah, trauma related. Is there anything that was quite sort of...
I've had fights with people holding knives trying to stab me, one-on-one. So I've come into a room and there's been two people there with knives, and I've had to disarm them. So that was quite stressful situation.
Course, yeah.
And the colleague I was with froze at the doorway, didn't come in and help, and I was having to shout at them to join in to help me. So that's one time I felt afterwards like my hands were shaking, and I was like, excuse my language, but fuck me.
Yeah.
It was a capital F is the way I would put it. So I think from that side of things I felt quite vulnerable. I've been involved in the London riots as a public order officer, and at times I've been stood say on a street corner, and there's been 200 or 300 people coming at me and 6 of my officers, and you don't stand a chance against that many sort of people. So trying to be confident and present yourself as big brave police officers and encourage people to move on and go away, not just London riots, football rioting, all sorts of things like that, that's quite stressful as well, because your colleagues are looking at you to be the one in charge, make a decision, and you've got their welfare in hand as well. You've got to make sure they're all safe. So that's quite stressful.
Yeah.
I've been in punch-ups where there's me, one colleague, and 30 people fighting. I'm quite an idiot maybe, but I'm quite a brave individual, or naive to, I don't tend to recognise fear.
Right.
I'm not frightened. I did boxing as a kid, and I'm not particularly big, as you can see, and as a kid growing up, everybody was always a foot taller than me, so if I ever got put in a boxing ring, everybody was always bigger than me, and I always find myself, even in the police, with the biggest person there.
Yeah.
Because I don't recognise that danger, I suppose. I just throw myself into it and get on. It's not until perhaps afterwards I reflect on it as thinking that was a bit of a close shave, or that was a bit stupid, perhaps. I'd kick a pub full of people fighting out of a pub on my own. Although I'd have backup coming, I wouldn't mess about, I'd just get cracking. So, afterwards, it's normally after I reflect on it, I think, Christ, that was a bit... Anyways, and so pub fights, people being glassed, other traumatic matters. One of the first jobs I got deployed to, from a road traffic accident point of view, was a lad who was driving along a road and his car had flipped over, gone across the central reservation on a dual carriageway, flipped a couple of times, his brains were all over the windscreen, his spine was hanging out, and yet he was still alive when we got there, and you could hear him gurgling and all this sort of thing. And that sticks with me to this day. I hear the car engines pinking. When you come to a stop with your car, you get out, you can hear where the engine's hot.
Yeah.
It tinks as it's cooling down, you hear the metal. I remember those sorts of things. And suicides aren't particularly nice. I went to my cousin's boyfriend's suicide on duty. I never knew him, but when I got there, all of her photographs were on the wall. He hung himself in the toilet, and we sat in the bathroom, and all her love letters to him and that were all laying on the floor. And as I didn't look at the pictures initially, I just picked up the love letters, and I was like reading through these notes and the note that he'd left her, and that wasn't very nice. It wasn't until I saw the photos I was like, shit. It was my cousin and her boyfriend, and I've never spoken to her about it. She doesn't know that I was there, so I sort of kept that to myself a little bit. But within my family life, I've had suicides that have taken place, cousins that have shot themselves, another uncle who committed suicide, gassing himself in a car, and they've committed suicide because they've suffered with pain in their life. Like my uncle was shot. He was in the SAS and got shot out in Ireland, and he then got run over, and it was sort of a culmination of lots of different things led to him committing suicide. And I felt quite close to him, and nobody expects it when suicide comes. Generally, it's either unexpected or you're just waiting because this person's tried it umpteen times. Well, for him, it was quite unexpected. But I've always had this feeling. I broke my neck. I don't know what you know about me, but I broke my neck windsurfing, and I suffer quite a lot with pain. He used to do a lot of marathon running. There's all sorts of things that I like to do. I box. And if I look at it retrospectively, I suppose I've always had this feeling in the back of my mind, is that going to lead to me wanting to commit suicide? Because I don't want to, but you just don't know, because these people are strong characters, and I would never have thought it of them, but they've obviously got to a point where they've had a gutful of it all. And I do wake up some mornings and I sit on the edge of my bed, I bawl my eyes out because I've had enough. But not because I want to do myself in, I just had enough of the pain and the rest of it. So I can put into context how they maybe felt and why they would go off and do it. So when I've been to suicides and I see these things, I can deal with them. But it does make me reflect quite a bit on my past and what's gone on.
Yeah.
I live locally here, or did do, until a couple of weeks back, and a lad had electrocuted himself on the roof of a building trying to steal some metalwork.
Right.
He got fried basically because the electrics were still live, so he stank and that, and we're trying to resuscitate him, get him off a roof, and I go past there all the time, and you don't forget it. But the thing for me is, although I don't sit there bawling my eyes out, I do become quite pensive about things.
Yeah.
And I've become quiet, and I met my wife and I said to her, you'll find there's days where I will just be quiet, you just need to leave me alone. And I sort of retreat into myself. I'd rather shut the curtains and just be in a quiet room, and then a couple of days later I'll be alright again. But that's my coping strategy for how things are, which ain't great because nobody wants to be ignored, do they, at the end of the day. What sort of other traumas have I had? Specifically, can't think of anything else off the top of my head.
Thank you for sharing that. So you've sort of reflected on how there are times where you don't want to talk to anyone, you just want to be alone. So if we just sort of bring PTSD into that, do you remember the first time that you know, something didn't feel right, or it didn't, if you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, before I joined the police, a lot went on with my family. My dad used to beat my mum up, and
yeah, it's okay.
And he used to sexually assault her and things like that, which excuse me.
That's all right. Take your time. It's okay.